$10 million. Gone. Claire found that out on a Tuesday afternoon in her mother's kitchen, the smell of old paper and cold coffee thick in the air. 23 spreadsheets. 7 years of statements. The final balance, $384,000. Her mother had dementia. She did not know she was signing. She signed everything he put in front of her. The man who handed her those documents was her financial advisor. He had been with the family for 7 years. He had been to her mother's house for dinner. The question is not how he took it. The question is how long everyone around him knew, and said nothing. 7 years earlier, Claire trusted Evan Chalmers, a man with a keen insight into the financial markets. He was known for his tailored suits and firm handshakes, attributes that exuded professionalism. Claire's faith in Evan was immense, particularly in managing her mother's substantial estate, which was valued at around $10 million. Quarterly reports arrived like clockwork, filled with intricate graphs and detailed forecasts, all portraying a consistent theme of growth and security. Each figure painted a picture of a well-fortified financial castle, something Claire and her mother took immense comfort in. They believed that Evan's expertise was a reliable shield protecting their hard-earned wealth. For years, their peace of mind remained unshaken, as the documents they received continually reinforced their trust and confidence in his abilities. However, documents have a way of showcasing only selected narratives, leaving out the shadows lurking behind the promising numbers. Year 4. The statements stopped arriving on schedule. When they came late, crumpled in the mailbox like an afterthought. Rosemary called Evan 3 times in 1 week. He answered twice. The estate had dropped below $9 million. Evan explained it as a market correction. His voice was calm. His hands, when they met at the office, were calm too. Everything about him was calm. That should have been the first sign. Claire sat in the parking lot after that meeting and looked at the printout. The column labeled "Management Fees" had doubled. She folded it in half and put it in her bag. She did not call a lawyer. Not yet. That decision would cost $2 million. Claire found the initial plan, Investment Strategy Year 1 to 3. Typed precisely, it contained detailed promises of dividends and risk management, outlining strategies and contingencies. As she delved deeper, Claire noticed a glaring omission, the lack of clarity beyond Year 3. The fourth-year reports baffled her. They were vague, sketchy at best, lacking the intricate granularity evident in earlier documentation. Driven by curiosity, Claire headed to the library, her determination unwavering. She scoured through archived investment books, flicking through dense chapters filled with financial projections and market analyses. Yet, the fourth year remained elusive, like a puzzle missing its key piece. In an obscure corner of a dusty shelf, she stumbled upon a reference to a pivotal year, marked by unexpected market fluctuations. This missing year stood out, conspicuously absent, a torn page from a larger book of deceit, hinting at secrets buried deep within the corporate history. An enigma waiting to be unraveled. The investigation into Rosemary's estate initially seemed straightforward, but it took an unexpected turn 5 years later. Her will, originally a mere 2 pages of standard boilerplate language, began to reveal deeper layers of complexity. It included new entries with amendments and complex trusts that had never been discussed before. Claire, perusing these documents, became increasingly suspicious as she noticed distributions were designated for unfamiliar entities with no apparent connection to her family. As she examined the details more closely, the signatures stood out. They were marked by her mother's cautious, hesitant strokes, yet something was amiss. Initials were not only out of place but strikingly inconsistent, as if crafted by a different hand altogether. This perplexing discovery hinted at something larger, a potential conspiracy or fraud that risked unraveling if not addressed. Claire knew she needed to delve deeper into Rosemary's past dealings, as the truth concealed within these intricate documents could change everything about their understanding of her mother's legacy. Easter Island Ventures, Meridian Pathways, Blue Ridge Capital Holdings. Claire wrote the names in a notebook, pressing hard enough to leave marks on the page beneath. None of them had websites. 2 of the addresses were P.O. boxes in Nevada. One traced to a strip mall in Delaware, a registered agent office that handled 400 companies. She called. A woman answered and read from a script. The money had moved through these shells in 11 transactions over 14 months. $3 million. Rosemary's signature appeared on each authorization form. Her mother could not remember what she had eaten for breakfast. But her signature was on every page. The address for Meridian Pathways led Claire to a small, nondescript office building nestled among others just like it, a misleading facade for many unsuspecting souls. As she stepped inside, the sterile hallways greeted her with their cold, indifferent tile floors and walls adorned with prints devoid of character. Each corridor seemed to echo stories long forgotten, yet devoid of any memorable human presence. The office suite itself was merely a hollow shell of potential deceit, empty except for its hollow promises of occupancy. Desks untouched, chairs gathering dust, and filing cabinets lined up like soldiers with no battle to face. Claire's footsteps were the only sound, filling the silence that enveloped the vacuous space. When she approached the building manager in search of answers, he merely shrugged and stated, "Never met them. It's an office by name only." The encounter left Claire pondering the depths of Meridian's illusory presence and how much of it really existed outside their strategic camouflage. Evan stopped returning calls in March. The voicemail box at his office filled up. Claire drove to his building on a Thursday morning, the sky flat and gray, the lobby empty except for a security guard who checked his phone. The receptionist said he was traveling. She did not know when he would return. She said it the way people say things they have been told to say. Claire stood in that lobby for a moment. The fluorescent lights hummed. Her mother had 6 weeks to live. The estate now showed $1.2 million. It had been $10 million when Evan took the account. Evan had always prided himself on the clarity of his financial reports. Each column, each figure, meticulously organized, creating a seemingly impenetrable wall of numbers. But as Claire examined the documents, something peculiar caught her attention. Among the tidy rows, she found regular withdrawals labeled management fees. At first glance, they seemed legitimate, part of regular business operations. However, these withdrawals had no accompanying explanations or detailed breakdowns. Intrigued, Claire decided to cross-reference these with other financial records. She made a list of recipient accounts corresponding to these withdrawals, expecting to discover a pattern or identify the beneficiaries. To her surprise, her findings led to dead ends, blank spaces where names and accounts should have been. The funds had vanished into the ether, leaving no trace behind. This anomaly suggested a deeper mystery, one that required further forensic investigation to unravel the hidden gaps within Evan's ostensibly perfect financial ledger. Claire had managed to obtain a series of bank statements from various third parties, thanks to her mother's long-standing authority. These documents were not just complex, they were an intricate maze of data, a paper jungle soaked in the language of finance. Each page was densely packed with CUSIP numbers, account details, and blurred transfer entries, painting a picture far removed from clarity. There were 10 accounts in total, each one strangely intertwined with Evan's name. They represented a web of financial connections that, while opaque, hinted at deeper links yet to be uncovered. These banks were linked in ways that suggested hidden narratives, but they offered no clear stories on their own. Instead, they whispered ambiguity, compelling Claire to dig deeper, to unearth the secrets these pages concealed. The investigation into Evan's financial dealings promised to reveal much more than mere numbers. It hinted at a hidden story of deception and intrigue that demanded resolution. The forensic accountant worked from a rented office on the 4th floor. The windows were painted shut. A heater ticked in the corner. He laid out 4 pages on the table without speaking first. 4 recipient accounts. One was a holding company registered in Delaware, no website, no phone number, no employees on record. One was a trust in Nevada. The beneficiary was listed as blank. One was a wire routing number that traced to a correspondent bank in the Cayman Islands, and then went silent. The 4th account was registered in the name of Evan's son-in-law. He had never met Rosemary. He had never been to her house. He had received $840,000. In the December before Rosemary passed away, a suspicious transaction caught the attention of those reviewing her financials. The records indicated a hefty sum of $1.7 million had been moved into Evan's personal account under the guise of a client deposit, or so the notation claimed. Upon delving deeper, Claire discovered that the financial trail abruptly ended at a cooperative bank in the Cayman Islands. This particular bank, known for its stringent privacy laws, all but confirmed the suspicious nature of the transaction. Alarm bells rang as Claire pieced together the deeply intertwined web of deception, money laundering, and betrayal. Armed with meticulously compiled documents and unequivocal evidence, she understood the gravity of her discovery. These pieces of evidence were not merely facts on paper, they were insights into a larger narrative of financial misconduct and personal betrayal. Claire knew this unveiling could lead to a significant turning point in unraveling the corruption threaded through their lives. With Rosemary's funeral concluded, Claire found herself unable to rest. The weight of unspoken words heavy upon her, she sought out Evan, hoping to find clarity amidst the chaos. Meeting at a local cafe, the air was filled not only with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee but also an undeniable tension that seemed to permeate everything around them. They exchanged quiet words, maintaining the facade of courteous smiles, even as each line uttered hinted at the depth of betrayal they both felt. The sense of shared history loomed heavily, unspoken accusations lingering in the space between their sips of bitter coffee. All accounted for, Evan said, trying to mask the unease in his voice. Claire knew this was far from the truth. As their discussion unfolded, it became clear that this confrontation was not just about uncovering facts, but sifting through fragmented realities in search of some semblance of truth. Evan disappeared without a trace, leaving behind an empty apartment like a ghostly echo of his presence. No forwarding address, no clues, it was as if he vanished off the map. Claire, determined to uncover the truth, noticed a pattern, a trail of breadcrumbs leading across continents. She found shell companies, seemingly disconnected, yet pulsing with brief signs of life, a digital signature that matched Evan's. This was no ordinary disappearance, it was a carefully orchestrated vanishing act. Among the murky layers of deceit, $400,000 remained, almost mocking her like loose change in the vast emptiness he left behind. She dug deeper, uncovering whispers of Evan's new life, hidden in the shadows, where technology and mystery intertwined. Claire knew this was just the beginning of unraveling a much larger scheme, one that challenged her intuition and pushed her detective skills to the limit. The stakes were higher than she had ever imagined, a tangled web woven with secrets and intrigue. Claire watched as the $10 million inheritance transformed into a cautionary tale, demonstrating the fragility of wealth and trust. The grand estate, once a symbol of her family's legacy, stood empty, its lavish hallways echoing with memories of a bygone era. Numbers that once vibrantly dictated their status had turned cold and lifeless on the pages of spreadsheets and bank statements. Trust in a system that promised stability had been misplaced, unraveling into a web of unfulfilled assurances and hidden pitfalls. As Claire stood against the grim window, her silhouette gently absorbing the dimly lit city view, she pondered the lost opportunities and misplaced confidences. The closed ledger in her hand felt heavier with each unanswered question about the shadows lurking in the financial systems they once deemed invincible. Ghostly reflections of closed books glimmered in the glass, each page reminiscent of lessons learned but not fully understood. Yet, within the hollow frames of loss, lay a resolute hope for a better tomorrow, a hope to rebuild from these ashes. She trusted the system, and the system looked away. Here is the question that keeps me up at night: if you discovered your own family had been robbed this way, would you fight the institution, or walk away? Comment below. I genuinely want to know. And if stories like this matter to you, stories the powerful would rather you forgot, subscribe. We tell one every week.